Welcome back to the CSP Elite Baseball Development Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Cressey, and this is episode 201. Really excited for today's guest, another CSP guy who was actually with us in high school and is now a major league player. So speaks to long-term athletic development, things he's learned along the way, particularly as a high school draft pick. He speaks about lessons learned during long rehab processes and, the time that so many of these minor league guys missed during the COVID pandemic and how they found ways to get better. Definitely a great model for kind of a self-awareness, recognizing that, he had some things that were maybe going off the rails a little bit and leaned on, teammates and mental skills professionals, veteran players to really help him right the ship and put him in a good place to be in the spot where he is today. Unbelievable guy in terms of work ethic and attention to detail. One of my absolute favorite players to work with. So really excited for this episode. This episode is brought to you by AG1, the most comprehensive NSF certified for sport daily nutritional supplement I've ever tried. With so many stressors in life, it can be difficult to maintain effective nutritional habits and give our bodies the nutrients they need to thrive. As a father of 3 young kids and a co-founder of multiple businesses in multiple states on top of still being an avid exerciser, I know that busy schedules can really take their toll on us. Whether it's poor sleep, exercise or life stressors, environmental factors, or simply not eating enough of the right foods, we can often wind up deficient nutritionally. This is where AG1 can really help. It's a game-changing nutritional insurance policy. They simplify the logistics of getting optimal nutrition on a daily basis by giving you just one thing with all the best things. That's why I use it daily, as do several of my family members, and we recommend it to a lot of our top athletes. One scoop of AG1 contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients that work together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet to support energy, focus, digestion, and recovery. And this can all happen for less than $3 per day and without taking multiple products. While most nutritional supplements come to market and stay stagnant, AG1 continues to obsessively improve this one holistic formula based on the latest research, producing over 50 improvements in the last decade alone. They invest in the most absorbable and natural source of each ingredient and go above and beyond in third-party testing to ensure their customers continue to receive the highest quality and best tasting nutrition habit on the planet. Whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it'll work for you, and it contains less than 1 gram of sugar per serving. They put 75 ingredients through the rigorous NSF certification test to come up with a safe formula that's trusted by some of the world's top athletes, including many of our own at Cressey Sports Performance. Right now, AG1 is giving our listeners a special offer of 10 free travel packets with their first purchase. Just head to drinkag1.com/Cressey and claim this special offer. These travel packets are perfect for supporting your immune system, energy, and gut health while you're traveling for games, training, or simply on the go. They can be great counterbalance to the less than ideal on-the-road food options that are out there for a lot of our traveling baseball players. So if you want to bridge the gap between deficient and optimal and give yourself the best chance of getting nutrient diversity, head to drinkag1.com/Cressey to get 10 free travel packets with your first purchase. Again, that's drinkag1.com/Cressey, Cressey. You won't regret it. Today's guest is a right-handed pitcher who grew up in New Jersey and was drafted by the Texas Rangers in the 16th round of the 2015 MLB draft. He was the recipient of the 2018 Texas Rangers Nolan Ryan Pitcher of the Year award, and prior to the 2019 season, he was rated by Baseball America as having the best control tool in minor league baseball. In November of 2019, the Rangers added him to their 40-man roster, but he did not play a game in 2020 due to the COVID-related cancellation of the minor league baseball season. He opened the 2021 season in Double-A, but was designated for assignment in July of 2021. He was claimed off waivers by the Phillies, and not long thereafter, he was taken off the 40-man roster. He re-signed that offseason with the Phillies as a minor league free agent, but also had Tommy John surgery, which kept him out for the entire 2022 season. He returned to make 25 starts in 2023, throwing over 120 innings over 2 levels. After a stellar start to the 2024 season, in July he was selected to the 40-man roster and promoted to the major leagues for the first time. In his major league debut, he threw 4 innings in relief, striking out 7 batters and allowing only 1 run. Thereafter, he was added to the Phillies starting rotation, where he made 7 more starts in 2024. On July 27th, he pitched a complete game shutout in an 8-0 victory over the Cleveland Guardians. Please welcome to the show, Tyler Phillips. Tyler, my man, thank you very much for carving out some time tonight to talk.
Yeah, no problem. Excited to be here.
And this is long overdue. We've been following you for quite some time, as people will probably appreciate as we talk through this tonight. But I think a good place to always start, particularly for guys where we have, I look back and I've lost count of how many guys have been with us, both as high school athletes and now as major leaguers. So they're always good conversations to backtrack on. But maybe touch on your early sports career. You're born and raised in the Northeast, very different than kind of the Florida world we know down here, where it's baseball, baseball year round. Were you a multi-sport athlete, or was baseball what caught your attention year round?
Yeah, I played other sports. From a young age, I was into soccer, I was into basketball. Football I was a little too fragile for. But yeah, I was a goalkeeper in soccer. Basketball, I was always bigger, so I was usually a center or like a forward or something like that. And I think it was around like the age of 12 is 12, 13-ish is when I put all my focus towards baseball. I had a pitching lesson with one of my pitching coaches at Diamond Nation in Flemington.
Mhm.
Um, and my pitching coach, he was catching it, and he kind of just like got a light bulb, and he said like, "Hey man, like stop the lesson in the middle of it," and pulled me off to the side. He said, "Hey, I think we should probably put a lot of focus towards putting the bat down and putting the other sports on the shelf because I think you're going to make a lot of money pitching one day." I thought he was joking at first, but
Yeah.
and honestly, my dad had a harder time hearing that than I did. But when you hear somebody telling you that, you start to create a dream in your head, these fantasies, and that's I think it was around like 13 is when I put everything into baseball.
Yeah. Did you stay involved in the other ones? Just recreationally with buddies, pick up hoops in the yard, stuff like that, or how did it all kind of materialize?
Pick up hoops for sure. The sports just all clashed.
Yeah.
Parents were both working, so
Yeah.
trying to get to different things over the weekend. I'm playing baseball year round was tough, but pick up pick up basketball is definitely one of them. We had a lot of
Yeah.
fun with. I even carried that into early pro ball for a little bit, but then I realized that you can get prone to injury, so had to kind of shut that down pretty
Made some
quickly.
better decisions. So,
Yeah,
we're talking about you as a high school athlete, and I always remember your evaluation because you came to Florida as a high school senior. It was the fall of 2014. And I'm pretty sure our twin daughters were born the week you were there. I remember doing
yeah.
your evaluation. I think it was Thanksgiving week, in fact, and my wife's water broke the on Black Friday of that
Oh
week.
my
So
gosh.
we had twins. So I joke that I've known Tyler Phillips as long as I've known my kids. But I distinctly remember when you came in for that evaluation. You were probably 6'2", 6'3", maybe a buck 60, a buck 65,
Oh yeah,
so
right,
soaking
right
wet.
there.
You were committed to play to junior college, and I remember distinctly in our first conversation, we talked about training, we talked about your experience and all that stuff. But you told me you absolutely wanted to sign and play professional baseball. You were very, very convicted in it, and
Yeah,
normally that's a big red flag, right? It just screams like I don't like class, I don't want to go to college, and like that. But for you, it definitely felt like a different kind of conviction. Like when I look back, like what was it that made you so sure that that was the right path for you? Back in 2014.
yeah. I mean, if you asked junior, senior me, I would have told you I hated class. But honestly, I put a lot of time into baseball from gosh, when I was like 6 years old. I think my dad had like a light bulb. He saw like I had a good arm or something. But yeah, I mean, I just had this passion for the game. Uh, growing up in that Northeast, like in the Philly area, I was going to Phillies games all the time. I was seeing like a lot of grit out of those guys, and it just made me fall in love with it. Um, and I mean, that's a big reason we came down to see you. We knew the reputation, and we had a dream of becoming a professional baseball player. I think I got seen by the Rangers scout when I was 14 years old, and I was going to a bunch of showcases, and I just knew that I needed to get a little bit of an edge. Um, yeah, I mean that's just something I had that dream, and I just decided this is what I want to go for. I
Yeah.
put a lot of work into it. Um, Honestly, more work into the baseball than the school, which I tell kids all the time now, don't do that. That's not the right way to do it. But if I was going to put all that time into it, I might as well go for it and just go for it 120%, you know?
Yeah. And I think you had to work at it, right? You weren't an area codes kid like in the summer going into your senior, right? Like you weren't in that mix.
I went to the first tryout, got called back. I was throwing hard, but I was never this guy with a lot of hype around me. I was always kind of an underdog. I was never like a USA guy.
Mhm.
Never area code. Did one perfect game showcase. we weren't crazy about a lot of like the political things we saw from these different showcase events. And like I said, like we kind of knew what it took
Mhm.
based off of like family friends that we've talked
Yeah.
to who've been in pro ball. Uh, and I kept telling my parents, I told all my teachers, I wrote stories about it. This is what I want to do. It was my dream. And like I said, there was a reason that we came down to see you and to be in that atmosphere around all those other guys.
I love that perspective. And I think we hear a lot, and obviously it's a changing scene right now with, the name, image, likeness stuff and everything that's going on with the transfer portal. Like, I think we're obviously seeing much fewer, or we will see probably a lot fewer high school guys, sign unless they're, slam dunk first rounders in the years
Yeah.
ahead. But, I think historically they've said, high school draft picks struggle a lot more than college draft picks. Obviously, they're harder to evaluate. They're younger. You don't know how they're going to respond to being away from home, getting a bunch of money if they sign for a lot. I'm always curious when I talk to a high school draft pick where it did work out. Like maybe this is the better question is, you struggled out of the gate like most high school draft picks do, right? But that was you were a 16 draft, but 2018 season, like you threw 133 innings, ERA under three over two levels, before you know it, the Rangers put you on a 40 man. So what was it that helped you to course correct where so many high school draft picks really struggle? It just never gets better.
Yeah, that's the journey to get to that
Yeah.
season. It was a little different. I think my rookie year, 2015, like in rookie
That's
ball,
right. 15.
threw really well
Yeah.
actually to start. And I just went out there just throwing whatever. It was kind of
Yeah.
treating it like a showcase, running on pure adrenaline. But then when I got called up to short season and low A, now I'm 17, signed at 17. I was like 17, 18 years old playing against 23-year-olds fresh out of college. And that's where I got exposed a little bit. And there was a little bit of like a little sense of complacency that I think you could see. I didn't know it at the time because there's like as a 18-year-old holding yourself accountable is not really a thing unless you like have really good people in your corner. Um, but with that being said, I was threatened a lot by my team. Like it sounds really bad, but I think that it was a way that helped me develop. I understood what they were telling me, hey, if you don't do this, like your career's it's not looking good. If you don't gain weight, if you don't do all the extra stuff. And the method of doing that might not have been the greatest, but it worked for a handful of us. Because I would just show up, do the bare minimum. I'd show up, go through stretch, play catch, do the conditioning, lift on the days where I was told to lift, and then I would just go home, sit in the hotel room, play video games, whatever it was, try to talk to girls, who knows. And then I saw my career going down the wrong path. I saw myself not being successful. I saw myself turning into a bad teammate, and I actually heard some guys talking about it, and I hated it. So I turned my season around. I got sent down from low A in 2017 down to short season. To me, it felt like the end of the world. It was the worst thing on the planet. But hindsight 2020, that's probably the best thing that could have happened for me. I went down. I was with a younger group of guys, and they told me that they wanted me to be more of a leader there. So from that point on, it was just go out there, just have fun, try to help them win. 2017 ended, had a meeting, and they told me like, "Hey, we wanted you to feel like meat. We wanted you to feel like livestock." Um, and leading into that 2018 season in the offseason, they asked me to go home and gain a lot of weight. They wanted more physicality out of me. I think I was 190. I just couldn't break 200. They said go home and gain 30 pounds. For 3 months, that's pretty hard to do. But I was scared for my career. So my dad, they helped me out a lot. I was doing your programs back home, doing them remote. I was just lifting as heavy as I could, eating 8 meals a day, gain the weight. But in order to do that, I had to have a good routine. And I think that's the biggest thing that you have to find. And fortunately enough for me, we had a really good peak performance coach. His name was Josiah Agono. Um, I would sit down with him like once a week and we would just talk routines. We would talk setting goals. And then getting into spring training, that was something that was like the first thing before I even do any baseball stuff. I go up to his office and we would just sit down and we'd talk about it. He would let me lead the conversation and we'd create my long-term goals, my process goals, we come up with a solid routine for everything that I wanted to do to maintain my weight, because being young, you're going to lose that over the course of a season. Um, so yeah, I mean, those were huge things. Then being able to throw 133 innings. I mean, I'm in low end, right? It's a very manageable level. I'm not like trying to put any knock on it, but I believe I was 19 or 20, and I just learned from a lot of the classroom sessions that we have, like more times than not, if you walk somebody, they're going to score.
Yeah.
So you have to limit that. You have to learn
Mhm.
how to get guys out over the plate.
Mhm.
And I was just very stubborn with
Mhm.
myself. Like I know Greg Maddox used to think that three balls was a walk, so I started adopting that for myself. Um, and that's why I didn't walk many guys that year, and I just threw the ball over the plate, put a lot of trust in the guys behind me. You'll get your ground balls, you'll get your strikeouts, and they all just work for me.
Yeah. And that's a big leap of faith to take. I mean, and the casual listener might not appreciate like defense isn't always great in low A, right? A
It's
lot of those
not.
ground balls, the shift isn't perfect. Like a lot of those ground balls find holes. They become infield singles, whether they were or not. Like, so it is a leap of faith to, trust the expected outcomes at that point in your
Yeah,
career. You're just trying to advance and eating. So it's, credit to you for locking in on the mental skill side of things, because I think a lot of people struggle with that.
yeah, I mean, that's one of the most important things in the game. And like I said, I was a bad teammate, and guys were making errors for me in the short
Mhm.
season, and I had to change my verbiage whenever something bad happened. Like if there was an error, and I still do it to this day, my family gets upset with me if someone makes an error, because I'm always defending them. Those are my teammates. Those are guys that are behind me. Um, my if I don't know if there's a ground ball in the hole and the guy tries to backhand it and he boots it, I just say, hey, I should have made a better pitch. Like I should have gotten that
Yeah.
pitch inside a little bit more. Maybe he wouldn't have hit it as hard, or maybe he would have hit it 3 feet to the right where the guy wouldn't have had to backhand it.
Yeah.
Granted, I mean, guys are paid to make those plays, but I try to put a lot of that weight onto myself, because there's a little sense of accountability, and it makes you go after that hitter the next time.
Yeah. You hinted at a couple things too. I think, anytime you're drafted as a high school draft pick, like kind of by default, you're the best player in the history of your town, right? Or you're in that
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden you get into this world of everyone was the best player in the history of their town, and they all kind of come together, and it's a big surprise. But at the same time, like I think you implied even more so, like in high school, there's a curriculum, like the classes you go to, what the daily schedule is, and professional baseball, there's a little bit of that, but there is a lot of downtime. There's a lot of
yeah,
time to fill. And I think some guys just struggle with that they're not prepared for that level of autonomy that kind of creates with going off in the world. You go to college and like you go to Vanderbilt, Tim Corbin's going to ride you pretty hard, right?
yeah,
You go
yeah.
to Wake Forest, Corey Muscara is going to be on you about your routine, all that stuff. So I'm curious, when you think, or maybe when you talk to a young high school draft pick that's entering the Phillies organization, you cross paths him, or you see a guy at our facility, like what would your biggest advice be to high school draft picks? Like how do you shorten that learning curve as much as possible?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing that I've ever heard, and I say it all the time, it's in my Instagram bio. It's like talent is never enough. Um, I live by that now. Like everybody thinks they're talented. Everybody thinks they're the best thing on the planet. Um, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be someone that's better than you. I mean, you have to put the work in, and that's something that I really bought into. I think like the second year of my career, like I said, I was doing the bare minimum, and I had to find some type of routine. You can't just sit down, because the guy next to you, he's going to get going off trying to do something to get better.
Yeah.
Um, and I also had like good people in my corner. We've talked about it in the gym before. I've had Scott Oberg in my corner.
I was going to ask you about him. He's a
Yeah,
special dude.
I mean, he kind of put me into the frame of mind as like the other things aren't like really important, like the outside of baseball things. This is what you really care about. Then all that other stuff can wait a few extra minutes. Like I feel I kind of go into these phases of like reading books, and there's one of them I was reading. It's called Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and he talks a lot about like the little things. He likes to talk about the process and how everything incrementally just piles onto each other. And there's, in one hand, you'll have, I don't know, if you want to go for a walk for 30 minutes, it's really easy to do. But if you want to sit down and watch TV for 30 minutes. That's also really easy to do. It's just which one you're choosing. Um, so, I mean, you could choose the easy one that's going to progress you forward in your career. You could choose the easy one that's just going to feel better, be a little bit more comfortable. So I challenge kids to get out of their comfort zone and to just put that little bit of extra work in. Because again, you never know when that last day is going to be. And as long as you're leaving it all out on the field, you can't really be upset with yourself.
Yeah. Talk to me about how, how you met Oberg. And Scott was he's one of our first 10 podcast guests. And I mean, blessed with a generational arm, extremely hard worker, had some tough luck with unfortunately blood clots and
Yeah.
had to retire and is now working in the Rockies front office. But one of my favorite people ever. And like he was a big fan of yours, but he also held you to a really high standard. Like maybe talk specifically about some of the feedback he gave to you, like what the day-to-day interaction was, and even how that like relationship materialized.
Yeah. There was a gym pretty close to my home that I was going to for a long time in my life, and the owner of the gym, he said like, "Hey, we got a major leaguer in here." I think Scott at the time was an up and down guy with the Rockies, and to me, I just hear major leaguer and my eyes light up. I was going, "Gosh, like where?" Um, and he says, "Yeah, I want to introduce you." So next thing you know, I'm shaking his hand. He says, "Hey Tyler, like I'm Scott. You're my new throwing partner." I was like, "Huh, are you serious?" Like I wasn't even drafted yet at this point. I was a senior, and he knew that like I was like in the talks of being drafted. Um, and yeah, I mean, I was ecstatic. I was like, I get to throw the big leaguer. This is the coolest thing in the world. Little did I know, my immaturity was something that a big leaguer doesn't really want. You know, so in the beginning of our relationship, going to this gym, I wasn't the biggest fan, and I think he probably knew that too. But yeah,
Tough love.
I was 17, and I'm on my phone all the time, and I'm showing up on time or 5 minutes late for things. He'd tell me every day, "Hey, let's show up at 9 o'clock. We're gonna throw." And I would show up at like 9:01, 9:02. I'd shoot him a text like, "Hey, I forgot to get gas," something stupid. Always making an excuse. Um, and I would walk in those double doors, and I would see him sitting there, and he's all quiet, but like it's like he's got that the pursed lips, and I was like,
He's probably covered in sweat because he was there at
"Oh,
8:15
oh,
warming
he
up
was
and taking
probably
care
there
of stuff.
warming up."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I was like, "Hey, sorry, man. Like, just couldn't find my keys. Something silly." And then we'd play catch, and he's like blowing me up. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like this is serious. This is crazy." I was like, "Oh, this guy's something else." And then I'd go through my lift, and I'd have my phone, I don't know, 3 feet from me the whole time, or in my pocket the whole time, checking it in between sets. And slowly each day, he would kind of make a remark to me, "Hey, like let's not do that." And I would write it off because you want to be rebellious, you want to be this young kid, like who's this guy think he is? And then one day he like really got on to me, and I was scared. So like, yeah, I went and put my phone back in the cubby, and he came and explained to me like, "Hey, you're in this weight room for 2.5 hours. This is your 2.5 hours to work. This is your 2.5 hours of your craft. We don't get to do this all day. It's not a 9 to 5. This is your 2 hours to lock in. And if you want to go anywhere in your career, this is where you have to put that phone up because that doesn't matter." And I listened to him, and I was like over in the corner doing the rest of my lift, just like, can't believe this guy would just talk to me like that. Like, what's going on? And once I like week by week, I saw myself growing and getting better. And it was the weirdest like correlation. I was like, what is happening? How is this working? And then you start to slowly show up on time. You're showing up earlier, and you just feel better. Like you're accomplishing your routine, you're accomplishing your goals. And I credit a lot of like any of like the maturity that I have. I credit a lot of that to him. Like I said, if I wasn't a fan of him in the beginning, it was very quick that I found out that I had this immense respect and love for this guy, because for someone who's up and down at the time, he wants a good atmosphere around him. He wants major league caliber players. I was trying to play catch up, and without him, I would have never been able to accomplish anything that I've done in my career.
Yeah, special dude. One of my favorites of all time. And what I think is cool too is his habits have sustained. Like, the ability to like you're a dad now, right? you got to be able to flip the switch from being all in on baseball, being all in on a dad. But like you're one of those guys, honestly, I'm pretty sure I could print out your program, just turn the lights on to the gym and leave for an hour and a half, and I'd come back and be, soaking wet, covered in sweat. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you just you know how to really separate things, and that's an important thing that a lot of kids these days don't understand. I mean, that was 2018, give or take. Like that was there were a lot less distractions back then. There's way more social
yeah,
media stuff now. There's more noise for today's players too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's the stuff that doesn't matter. Like going to the gym, it feels good to me.
Yeah.
I know that it's gonna help me in the long run. I've convinced myself that if I skip a rep or I skip a set, skip a day in the gym, that's gonna keep me out of the big leagues
Yeah.
for another day or another year, whatever it is. It's gonna keep my elbow from not holding up. So
But,
you just got to be
yeah.
stubborn.
That's the best way to look at it, and the best possible way, right? There's different
Yeah.
kinds of stubborn. We lost track of one another kind of around the COVID era. And you missed a season in 2020, like a lot of minor league guys did, and then had Tommy John, after just a little bit of 2021 and missed all of 22. What were some of the big lessons that you learned? I mean, effectively, it was almost like three straight seasons away from playing competitive baseball at a high level. You also switched teams midway through this process. What did that kind of like 2.5, 3 year spell teach you?
Gosh, I mean, you had to learn a lot, like with the mentality. I guess after the Tommy John, I mean, that's the biggest mental grind on the planet. Like going through that in itself is difficult. But when you're going through, I didn't even want to accept it. I think I got the surgery on October 5th, 21.
Mhm.
I was pitching the whole year with a torn UCL.
Yeah.
I got my surgery from Dr. Kremchuk, the Reds doctor, and he said when he opened me up the amount of scar tissue, he said, "Yeah, this has been here for over 6 months, like without a doubt." I think it was in May that I ended up being shut down with some elbow pain, and I just kept going because I didn't want to accept it. Um, Eventually, I just couldn't do it anymore. Got the surgery, and from that point on, like I know that I'm going to be able to pitch again. I don't know that, but like I'm determined to pitch again. That's all that I've ever put all my time towards. Um, the mental grind is just the biggest part of it. You're going to go through so many aches and pains. You're going to go through all kinds of different feelings. Your arms changing, your body's changing, and on top of that, you don't get to pitch. You don't get to do the thing that you love. Um, so again, when we talk about the stubbornness, we talk about that routine. It's for me, I just had to change my verbiage again. I had to say, you know what, this happened. It sucks, but I have a choice right now, and the choice is: do I want to lay down and die, or do I want to get better out of this thing?
Yeah.
Do I want to get stronger? Do I want to get my body more athletic? So I stayed home, I think, did my rehab, did the basic stuff that I was able to do. And then once I got down to spring training, that was time to go. I was around other guys rehabbing. And that's where it gets a little difficult because you hear the complainers. You hear the complainers and you hear the non complainers. You have to figure out who you want to be around. I was
Yeah.
around a lot of young guys um, who are a little naive to the baseball world. And I just kind of had to be by myself. I had to utilize the mental skills coaches. I had to utilize my family, my girlfriend, just having a lot of good conversations and just trying to get my mind in the right spot. And once I picked up a ball again, um, I mean, my body was going through so many different things. I thought my shoulder was torn the first week. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the end. I can't believe this. Um, but you just have to trust that the surgery that you got or the rehab that you've been doing, it's going to put you in the right spot as long as you're doing the right things and following your protocols and doing the extra things that you know are the right extra things. You can't
Yeah.
overdo it.
Can't skip steps.
Yeah. So once I started like throwing live BPs again, struggling to get over like 90, I was like, I can't believe this. Like, what is happening? I just kept having those good conversations with people. Um, Having to put trust in myself. I did all the good work. It's going to come. And then I took 6 weeks off, came back, and I was throwing 96, 97, and like my lives in spring training.
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing on the planet. Get to go out into the season again. That's where I think people don't understand about going through a big surgery like that. It's you forget how to compete,
Mhm.
especially the timing that I had. I was pitching
Yes.
around that time at like that 2020. You're not
Yeah.
competing there. You're doing taxi squad stuff. You're
Yeah.
throwing live BPs. You're working on things.
Yeah.
The Rangers then were asking me to change my fastball. So I'm working on things. 2021, don't get the pitch, working on my body.
Yeah.
2022, rehabbing more, working on a sinker now. So you don't get that competitive nature. You get to do it in the weight room a little bit, but that doesn't amount to what you do on the field. And once I went into a season again, I was working on locations because that's all I knew. I was working on the shapes of my pitches. And it took me, I think, half of the season of 23 to figure out like this is like you really need to get on it. Like you can't keep messing around. And I had was an outfield coordinator with the Phillies, Andy Abad. He watched me pitch and he came out and found me at the next day at the bucket. And I threw pretty decent that day. But he said, I can tell that you're timid out here.
Mhm.
And he told me you need to go out here and pitch like your life depends on it every single time. You need to go out here and pitch like your teammates' lives depend on it every single time. And he told me a story, and it'll always stick with me throughout the rest of my career. He said, from a hitter standpoint, he was in the cages one day. He finally got called up. Didn't have that much money. Baseball was different back when he played. He said that whoever was throwing BP to him said, "Hey, when you show up tomorrow, put $100 bill in your belt buckle or in your belt loop." And he was like, "Okay, I don't have $100. Let me go and borrow $100 from somebody." So he's already feeling weird borrowing this money. And before the guy even threw the pitch, he said, "Wait, I want you to imagine every time that I throw this pitch and I release the ball, right after I release it, I'm grabbing that $100 bill and taking it out of your belt loop." He goes, "Oh man, this ain't my money. Like you can't take this."
Mhm.
He's like, "Okay, well that makes it even more important." So he said, like, I'm going to make sure that this guy's not going to take this money. If I miss this ball, he's taking this money out of my pocket. So from my standpoint, those guys in the box don't care about me.
Mhm.
The guys in the field, like, they'll care about me, but at the end of the day, they have their own career to worry
Yeah.
about. Those guys in the box are trying to ruin my career. They're trying to take my job from me. They're trying to take the money off of my plate and take the money out of my pocket and the food off of my plate. So that's something that I had to finally get away from working on and just going out there and being a bulldog and just
Mhm.
giving the best stuff that I got because like we talk about, I mean, you never know when your last day is going to be, and if you're not leaving every single drop of blood, sweat, and tears on that field, like what are you doing out there?
We interrupt this podcast with a quick reminder that this episode is brought to you by AG1. It's an NSF certified all in one superfood supplement that features 75 whole food sourced ingredients designed to support your body's nutritional needs. I use this product daily myself, and a ton of our athletes do as well. Head to drinkag1.com/Cressey and claim my special offer of 10 free travel packets with your first purchase. AG1 gives you peace of mind that you're covering all your nutritional bases. Again, that's drinkag1.com/Cressey, Cressey, and you'll get that special offer. Yeah,
So
100%, man. Was it a pretty big change going from Texas to Philadelphia? Obviously, Philadelphia's got a great reputation of developing some awesome arms. They've got a lot of big league starters that have been pretty durable. So, I mean, what were some of the big changes that happened when you switched to a new organization?
I mean, it was a little different. I mean, you get a change of scenery.
Yeah.
My process was a little different. I had the DFA process, which I wasn't happy about. I mean, the Rangers was my first team. So I had a lot of respect for them. I was thankful and fortunate to be with them. But I think I sat down for like 10 days. They were trying to figure out a trade
Yeah.
situation. They couldn't get that going. So 10 days of nothing. And I heard the Phillies claim me on the 10th day, like the last minute. And I think it was our farm director called me, said that, and I hung up the phone and I was like, "All right, thanks." And I was like punched in the air. I was like, "Let's go," because like I grew up a Phillies fan. It was really cool. I was excited. Getting over there, I think the one thing that I really enjoyed about the Phillies, and I still enjoy about them, is that they give you freedom to be the person that you want to be. Texas, I think there was, for the time that I was there, I think there was a little bit of cookie cutter going on there. Um, they're going against the Astros all the time, who were unbelievable. They were trying to play. It felt to me like they were trying to play catch up with the Dodgers. We had a lot of injuries when I was in Texas, and you're trying to limit that stuff, but everybody's different, and like I talk about coming to see you, I like our programs, or I like the programs that you write because it's personalized to you. It's personalized to your body. Um, so that's something that I really enjoyed out of the Phillies. They let me personalize my pitching plan, my pitching philosophy to myself. Um, Whereas Texas, they wanted to see these power pitchers. They have the Nolan Ryan type of pitching plan. They want to see power pitchers. They want to see guys putting guys away with hard breaking balls. I learned a lot of great things from them. I learned how to go inside on hitters. I learned how to pitch fearlessly. But when I got to Philly, I learned this is my career. I get to say yes and no to things. Obviously, you want to be open and respectful to coaches, try new things. But if it's not going to work for me, like they're not going to hold it over my head.
It's good feedback. What changed for you arsenal wise? Like I know you really hang your hat on a sinker now. Has it always been the case for you? Do you feel like that really evolved over the last couple of years, or it was a pitch you always had that just learned to trust a little bit more?
Yeah, no, I mean, I early stages of my career. I mean, there wasn't many analytics going on, so I really went out there and just throwing a pretty bad four seam, and I was able to
Mhm.
command it good enough, I should say. I had a curveball. My changeup was my pitch with the Rangers. That's what got me on the 40 man. Again, that wasn't even metrically a good pitch. When I look back on it, I just knew how to throw it and knew when to use it. Um, I think around 2019, 2020, I finally made the double A with the Rangers. I got exposed like really bad. I was in the Texas League. You're pitching in tornadoes. I gave up a lot more home runs than usual.
See a lot of the same
Uh,
hitters over and over again in that league
yeah,
too.
it's a small league, so
Yeah.
um, that's when they had the idea. My curveball, it was pretty good pitch. I started to lose feel for the changeup. Um, they wanted me to have that separation with the fastball and curveball. So they gave me a painted ball and said, "Hey, go out there and just try to make this thing backspin, get some vertical movement on it." Um, I just I tried it for like a year or two.
Mhm.
Ended up climbing my arm up too high, got a shoulder impingement, um, and I think it was around that point where I was just like, I don't think this is for me. Um, I finally had the Tommy John, went to the Phillies, and I knew my four seam wasn't good. I said, "Hey, what do you guys think of me trying out a sinker? Like, I'm pretty sure I have a natural sinker profile." They said, "Hey, you do whatever you want. You don't have to ask us." I was like, "Okay." So then that's when I finally reconnected with you guys down here in Jupiter and talked to some of the pitching guys, and we came up with a one seam for me. I was the guy that had a profile for that. Um, I just held the grip and went out and threw it. But honestly, I think everything changed. I mean, the only thing that's still the same is my curveball right now. Um, I was throwing a gyro slider, the sinker, which was new in 2023. I had my curveball and I had a changeup that I didn't really throw because it wasn't great. Halfway through the year of 23, I added a sweeper instead of the gyro. I pitch designed the sinker to get that to sink a lot more and have a little bit more horizontal. Curveball stayed the same. Got called up to AAA towards the end of the season. And I think within like 2 weeks of being there, they said, "Hey, no more changeup. Let's try a splitter." Um, so my arsenal's really changed, and I'm
Yeah.
still battling with a lot of it right now. Just trying to perfect certain pitches. Um, I mean, the grind never stops
Yeah.
of how you can hone in on different things and how you can make stuff better. But yeah, my arsenal has changed so much since I've been with the Rangers.
Yeah, and hitters are getting better too, right? They're
uh,
seeing more stuff, pregame on guys, and they get more and more at bats against you. They're always trying to figure out different ways to attack you. So you have to
yeah,
stay have it. It's like there's a theme of this. It's like I joked with Jesus Luzardo about this new teammate of yours years ago. Is that you can get really dumb quickly if you're out of school for a while, right? If you don't make a
yeah,
conscious. In case Jesus is a guy who took college courses from the second he graduated high school, he just wanted to stay involved. Like you've talked about reading books, you talk about seeking out mentorship. You're basically scrutinizing everything you do. Like there's something to be said about just not getting complacent and
yeah.
educating yourself, particularly with respect to your craft, right?
Yeah, I mean, you see these hitters. I watch what they do. I mean, they have so many resources now,
Yeah.
and the difference with them is they get to practice it all day.
Yeah.
They have the trajects now. You just get to
Mhm.
practice it all day. They
Yeah.
watch me 150 times before they actually face me. And then if you're playing against a team in your division, you're playing them all the time too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just constant people trying. Everyone's trying to get better. You just have to try to stay one step ahead of them.
Absolutely. So MLB debuted this July, age 26, and over your first starts, you go 3-0 with a 1.80 ERA. There was a complete game in there, and you had a 19 to 2 K to walk ratio. The big leagues is supposed to be a lot harder than that. So
Yeah,
to what did you attribute your early success? What was the factor that really helped that first month?
yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and just say adrenaline.
Yeah.
I think that was a huge part of it.
Yeah.
I know the Phillies. I know their history with the Braves over the past few years, and I know like growing up watching them, that's who I debuted against, and
Yeah.
I was just sitting out there. I mean, I my call up was a little different, and I was coming out of the bullpen. They had to open up a spot for me,
Yeah.
and I hadn't done that in like 10 years. So I was sitting out there waiting for an opportunity. And I thought for the first 3 days there was an opportunity, or the first 2 days there was an opportunity. The games were kind of getting to the point where they were almost out of hand, enough for me to get in, maybe try to stop some bleeding. But obviously the team doesn't have that trust for me there because I was a starter and because I'm new. Um, and we had that day game at 1 o'clock, and I was sitting. I got ready every single day.
Yeah.
I was just asking guys like Strom out there and Kirkering and Jeff Hoffman, like, hey, what should I do? I don't know what's going on. Do you guys have the papers? They're like, hey
Yeah.
man, you're not a starter anymore. Like those starters, they're like the SWAT team. They get all this everything. Us, we just go in and clean it up, man. You just go in there and throw the best stuff you got. So in that 1 o'clock game, I mean, it was a early. We were getting blown out pretty early, and they called my name, and I don't even think I needed to warm up. I was so hot, like I felt the blood coursing through my veins, and I threw like I don't know, maybe like 13 pitches. Like I'm good, like I'm sweating. It's Atlanta in the middle of July or in the beginning of July. Um, I went out there. The umpires grabbed my glove, and they wanted to do the whole check and everything. Um, they're just smiling at me, like they knew it was my debut. I didn't know what to do. It was very awkward. I knew that I had a time that I had to be ready in. And she was like, hey, just give me that thing. And like, I said, let's go. I ran out to the mound and I just started letting it eat. Couldn't feel my body, couldn't feel my arms. Um, I mean, it's your major league debut
Yeah.
after 10 something years, like 9, 10 years. I was nervous.
Yeah.
But after you throw that first pitch, it's time to go. And I think after that very first pitch for the rest of July, I knew what needed to be done. I put the extra work in the video room. Everybody's different, but I was trying my absolute hardest to study these hitters and to find the tendencies. Granted, we had a joke with JT and Stubbs that I wasn't allowed to shake off, which I don't think I shook off once. Um, they put a lot of time in as well. I mean, I see what they do, and they're spending hours on end trying to figure out what's going to work. And as long as I trust my stuff and my abilities, that's what's going to go. You're new. The hitters don't know you, so you just got to go out there and, like I said, throw the ball over the plate.
As I say, pretty good guys to lean on, right?
Yeah,
Well, talk about the complexities, slash benefits of playing for your hometown team. Because I've talked to guys that say they'd never want to do it, guys who have done it and it drove them bonkers. And I know of other guys who would kill to play for the team they grew up cheering for. Like, how did you view it? What were the perks? What were the complexities of, growing up not far from the ballpark?
yeah. I mean, I was one of those guys. I don't think I'd ever admit it when I was younger. Like this is like I want to play for the Phillies, but I think I always said like, whoever pays you. But Philly fans like we're crazy. Like if you're in that area, you're a Phillies fan, and you're an all Philly sports team fan, and that's what it is. Um, and just going to the games from a young age, like I see the atmosphere, even when they're not doing well, like it's so much fun, and I don't know, you kind of see it, like everybody wants to go and play there. Um, it's an electric atmosphere, and I think my first home start, it was a day game too, or like a 4 o'clock game, and the place was a packed house, and they treated me unbelievably. I think my call out going out there, honestly, I was blacked out. I couldn't even hear what was going on. But when I heard my name, like the crowd erupted. They said my high school and everything, and that just pumped me up even more. And yeah, I mean, the perks of it is like is is like biased as it sounds. I mean, to me, Phillies fans are the best fans in the world. Um, and I guess like the only negative thing is, Dan, I can't even call it negative when you're not doing well. Like they're passionate about the city,
Yeah.
they're passionate about the game, and that just might add a little bit of extra stress that you don't need.
Yeah.
And I had to have a few talks with some guys who are like, "Hey, like don't worry about those people. Like
Yeah.
this is your career. They're not out here doing it." And I like to be a people pleaser. I want to please the fans. I want to help the team win.
Yeah.
Because it feels good winning in that city. I mean, you're like on top of the world. Um, and I guess another perk to it, like my parents still live there.
Yeah.
Like I lived in my parents' house
Free
when I
childcare
was
too, right?
yeah, like I had free housing, free babysitting. Um, yeah, I don't know if we can continue to do that in the years coming up. Uh, but yeah, I mean it's a great city to play in, and that's honestly no matter where I'm at, I think I'm gonna find that. I like to. I feel like I'm a pretty loyal guy. Um, I'm gonna find an appreciation for wherever I'm at, but just because I was able to be at the Vet and be at Citizens Bank for like the inaugural season and just grow up watching all the history that is going on there, that just made it that much more special to me.
That's awesome. So what's next for you? How do you think you can continue to refine and improve and and obviously make yourself a major league regular?
Yeah, I mean the mental part of the game is honestly the biggest part of it. Now that I have a taste of what it is, I think that's really the main separator. Like you're gonna have some freak athletes up there. You're gonna have guys who are just unbelievable at the game, no matter what they do. Um, but because I was there and because I found some success, I know that I'm capable of getting guys out at that level. Um, it's really just that mental side of the game, studying the hitters the right way, not digging too deep into it. I think I got into a place where I was analyzing hitters too much,
Yeah.
and I was trying to do things that weren't my strengths.
Yeah.
And that's what pitching is. You have to pitch to your strengths, not to the hitter's weakness.
Yeah.
So I was just chasing that a lot. I try to chase strikeouts. I try to chase shapes and movements. Um, like I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is just honing in on my identity while I'm
Yeah.
up there, because I was that up and down guy. It can be a little difficult to go from 45,000 people to 1,000 people. But just trying to be the same person every single day, that's huge. And just sticking to your routine and sticking to what makes you your best self. I mean, there's so many things I could tap on in the mental game, but I think that's really the biggest part of it for me.
You know you're good enough. Like I
Yeah,
think that's the biggest thing. A lot of guys don't know until they get there that they're good enough, and then they scuffle, and you can start to question that really quickly. But it seems
yeah,
like you've identified where when that happened, where you went astray, right? You can look at a heat map as glasses half full or glasses half empty. Either the hitters look
yeah,
really good, or it looks like a pitch that you can perfectly execute, right?
yeah. I mean, you just got to trust that
Yeah,
you're there for a reason, and
yeah,
I have to continue to believe that. I mean, like I think against the Mariners, like I think Robles got me like first pitch and started to find some doubt. Then I didn't want that to happen again. So the next game, I'm standing there and Otani's staring at me in the box. Like, geez, man. So again, like I had a choice. It's go after this guy or lay down. And you just got to go after him at the end of the day. Like you have to trust that you're good enough. And I think that's the biggest thing is just continuing to practice that and continuing to practice my competition mode, whether it's in the weight room, it's in bullpens, it's
yeah,
playing catch. You have to stay on it. And
yeah,
I've noticed that in so many guys. I mean, I see Scherzer in the gym. He competes every single day. That's what makes him who he is. He's a true
yeah,
competitor. And it's everybody in the gym right now. They compete every day. They don't let off of it. And that's what you have to have. Like that's what makes us special. And you have
yeah.
to have that to be a successful big leaguer.
No doubt. I love that. All right, we always wrap up with a lightning round. These are quick hitter questions. First one, who do you like to watch? What pitchers do you enjoy watching?
Uh, yeah, I mean, my main few. I'm a big Aaron Nola guy.
Yeah.
I've
A
watched
front
him
row
for a
seat,
long
right?
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like watching Charlie Morton, Logan Webb, just your similar sinker guys, your guys with the sweepier type of
Yeah.
curveball or sweeper. Um, those are like my main three that I watched a lot
Super
while I
good.
was up. I like watching all pitchers though. I mean,
Yeah.
I like to be a student of the game and just see what guys are doing. And I'm fortunate to have a really good staff that I get to watch
Yeah.
every day
Absolutely.
when I'm there. So I
I
think those
love
are
it.
my main three though.
Nice. What about qualities of the best coaches you've had? Obviously, been across multiple levels, multiple organizations. What are the things that you look for in coaches who have been the most impactful for you?
Uh, Gosh, that is a really good question. I'm going to turn this. I'm going to get away from the lightning round because I got to think about that for a second. Uh, in the recent days, I think my favorite one is been Aaron Barrett. He's
Yeah. Great guy.
he's dealt with a lot. I think just being a baseball person
Yeah.
definitely really helps.
Yeah.
But he
Special
was
dude.
around. He was around with me. He was the rehab pitching coach
Yeah.
for my second half of my rehab, and just the way that he went about it, just holding accountability for guys, not being scared of what a guy's going to think of you. I think that's something, and just having open ended conversations, not being this like dictator.
Yep.
Um, I don't think that's good for anybody. I think when you give guys the comfort to take the reins on their career, um, that's where you're going to see guys really blossom because they have ideas. Everybody's mind works differently, their bodies work differently, like we said earlier. If you just have an open ended conversation as a coach and let the player tell you their ideas and talk about their strengths or what they think is their strengths, now you can kind of mess around. They're like putty in your hands. You know, you can help progress a guy's career that much more. And I think Aaron did a really good job with that.
I love that. All right. Last but not least, give teenage Tyler Phillips some advice. You can go back in time when you're 16. You tell
Yeah,
me to find Scott Oberg sooner.
yeah, get better grades. That's like a big one for me. Is I messed around in school way too much. I know that probably would have helped me mature even quicker if I paid attention there. But yeah, finding a routine. That's the biggest thing. You know, you could do everything you read in a book. Like I don't know, like the ABCs of pitching, whatever books my dad was reading. I think that's also another one. Just having respect for the people that are trying to help you. There's so many people that are going to try to get in your corner. My dad being one of them, and we had so many fights growing up. But you know that's what you do with your dad.
Yeah.
You're gonna argue until he pays someone else to tell you the same exact thing. So yeah, just having respect for people, finding a routine. Gosh, there was one more that I was gonna say, and it just slipped my mind. But those are like two really big ones right there for me. Get better grades too. You know, don't mess around. That's what it was. Put yourself outside of a comfort zone.
Yeah.
Um, that's a really big one. I mean, that's something that Scotty got on me
Yeah.
for. My dad, he used to email you guys for me like when I was younger because I was so nervous to like, oh gosh, what if I spell something wrong or send the wrong thing? I want to sound professional. It's just a simple thing, but that helps you mature. It helps with
Yeah.
that maturation process, and just yeah, putting yourself out of your comfort zone. Just like I said earlier, like you
Yeah.
have that choice of do you want to do something that's easy that's going to make you feel good, or
Yeah.
something that's just as easy that's going to make you a better person and a better player.
Yeah. Oh, this is awesome, man. That's a good point to wrap up on.
Yeah,
It's been cool, man, seeing you, 10 years going from 17 to 27, not just becoming a big leaguer, but becoming a family man and really representing your parents really well as well. It's been cool to see the maturity and honestly an honor to be a part of it. So glad we got a chance to
appreciate it.
learned a little bit more about you tonight that I didn't have in my memory reservoir. So we'll have more conversations to have regarding this as well.
Yes,
So
sir.
thanks
Yes,
for taking the
sir.
time, man. This is a great one.
Nah, thank you. It was an honor to be on here.